Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Wild at Heart Show, real, authentic, uncut, here on USA Global TV and radio show for man, by man, about man. My name is Roland, and first of all, before we start, a happy new year, a happy 2023 to you, and I wish you all the best for this next 12 months. Yeah, the first show in this year, Wild at Heart. And I'm very happy that we refreshed a little bit of panelists. So the topic today is which values mean the most to man. I think it's a very, very important topic because values are, how to say, are the bottom line, or it's the basic of what about our thinking, about our belief system, about what we're doing, about our actions, about our attitudes. So today we're talking about values, which values mean most to man. And for those of you who are joining us the first time, I don't do this by myself. I'm just the creator, the moderator, the host of the show, because my background, besides my training business, consulting business, I dedicate my life to support men, doing a lot of men's work. And last year, I guess in March, we started with Wild at Heart to bring this to a broader audience. So I'm not doing it alone. We have a panelist here of different men with different backgrounds, different ages, different religions. And for those of you who joined all the shows last year or part of it, they will find out that we have a new member I will introduce shortly. But before I introduce the members, please go to our website. It's called bonfiretalks.com. On the website, first of all, you will get all the details of our panelists. For the new panelists, we will update it shortly. But you will also find all recordings of the previous show when you missed one or you want to hear it again. So on bonfiretalks.com, you will find all the recordings of all the previous shows and more information. But let's get started and let's welcome our first panelist, my dear friend from Poland. We just had a show 2 hours ago, which we really enjoyed. The UF show, the environmental show. Let's welcome MARCIN.
Hi, Roland. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here again.
Hi, great to have you back on the show and great to see you again today for our second show together, MARCIN. Welcome from Poland. Yeah, our next panelist is from the UK. BROSCH is in the house again. BROSCH. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yo, yo, yo. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man. How you doing?
Schönes Weihnachten.
Yeah. By the way, BROSCH, I don't know if it's fake news or not. But there's a very rich couple in Switzerland. They are collecting money to buy the license, or how you call it, the rights, the music rights on the last Christmas song from them.
Okay.
And then they will, how to say it, give it away from the market so they don't hear it anymore when they go to any shopping center.
Yeah.
So really, they're
buy
raising
it and
money.
burn it. Yeah. Buy it and burn it.
Buy the song and burn it.
Yeah, over here we have a thing called Whamageddon, and it's how long can you get into December before you hear Wham? And I got to the 24th. I had to nip into a shop to get something, and it came on as soon as I came in the bloody door. I was like, no, yeah. Mariah Carey. Yeah.
Too much and everything, you know. Yeah. It's like, it's like a candy. When you love candy, it's nice, but when you have too much candy, it's too much.
Yeah.
But anyway, gentlemen, we have a new panelist that's joining our show, and I'm very happy to bring some new flavor. Some new insights, maybe a different point of view. Let's welcome from Houston, Texas in the USA. Let's welcome Red.
Yo, yo, yo.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Red. Happy New Year. Hey, great to have you on the show, Red. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm honored to be here, so I'm looking very much forward to connecting with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. So, well, the topic is which values mean the most to man. So maybe we have to describe values. What are values? MARCIN, I know you're an expert on this. You're a coach. Maybe you want to describe for audience what does value mean? So we're talking about the same terms.
Yeah, I would love to be an expert in values, but I think everyone needs to carve their own path in it. If we see at the definitions, value is something that we cherish, that we care very much for. It's something that we try to achieve, but it's usually so ideal that the achieving of that is almost impossible. But we just strive to pursue the path towards the value like this. So the value most commonly known is family, family as a value, or maybe it will be freedom as a value or friendship as a value. So usually there are terms they can apply to individual situation or to the society, to the world even. So depending on which values are more important and less important in our lives and in our behavior, we can even diagnose and check and just find out what kind of values ladder do we have, because there is some kind of an order. If you just put all your values in a row and then decide which one will be the first and which will be the second, a mind map of values do you possess. And usually we do not think about them up until a very important part of our lives. So in big decisions, we tend to try to follow our values, or in some dilemmas, or maybe in a situation when something bad happened, and then we try to stick to our values just to be in line with our conscience. So values is very, very important, very interesting topic also, and many companies are interested in uh, shared values. So it's not about money, it's about something else that will motivate people towards work in the same company. So you can see in many at many reception desks and in the lobbies, in the foyers, these values are colorful and placed on the wall in some kind of a mural. But do the employees really follow them? That's the open question.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think sometimes values are very abstract words like love or independency or loyalty. And I would say to somebody, what is a value? I say when it's not really esteemed by somebody else, yeah, when it's heard by someone else, then you know what a value is because it's heard by. So, gentlemen, let's start with you, Big Scott. What is for you which value means the most for you? What's the most important value and why? And how would you describe it? Because my experience is when we talk about values, that people sometimes have a different interpretation of the value.
I would say loyalty is a hard thing to find these days. Do you know what I mean? So people tend to give up too easy. They don't fight through things. And in a business platform, getting people that, will offer to say that they're going to do something and then they don't, the people that actually put up and shut up and put up, you learn through life are the better people to be with. I also value friendship, good friendship. You don't have to have many friends, but one or two trusted ones that you can trust your life with are quite valuable to me. What else? Values. Money's, it's a value. It has a purpose, but it's not a necessity in my life. At my age, as you get older, you find the fundamental things that are important is that you're around people that you care about and you can do things. I've just become a trustee for a local community group that are helping people less poverty, and I've just jumped on the helm to help them sort of with technical data and stuff. And the value that I'm giving to that organization, I get a buzz while I'm doing it for them, because at the same time as I'm learning to do it for them, I'm also learning to do it for other aspects of my businesses and what I do as well. So giving back, I think, whether you've got money or not, you can all dedicate a couple of hours time a week to put back into your local community. Don't get detached. We've been detached for too long. And I think now we all need to do our little bit, as certain brands will say, every little helps. And these days, every little helps. And that is a value that we've all got. And I think we need to utilize more.
Absolutely. I want to pick a little bit deeper, Scott. You said, okay, loyalty you mentioned friendship. how does it feel, or how do you react when somebody hurts your value?
I've got to the age now where if things go awry, then it's not my person. If it's something that I would done, then I will confront it. But friendship it's not supposed to be fickle. It takes a long time. You know, it's like a romantic relationship. If you have a best buddy relationship, then you share that same bond, and I think sometimes they can be broken over trivialities, you know. So and especially as men, alpha males, you know. And I think as you get older, taking the alpha out of it, and yes, people pee me off, but I'm old enough and mature enough now to walk away. You know, I think in the last 5 years I've probably raised my voice twice, but I walk away and then I come back and I apologize. Whereas as a youngster, you wouldn't do that. You know, I'm in the right. Do you know what I mean? So I think you do learn loyalty and friendship, and that's not just what I meant. You're friends with your daughter, friends with your ex-partners, friends with your employees. You know, we live in a communication where there's so much to distract us, but what we need to do is, like I did the other day, was I went back to samba drumming because, as you guys are aware, I had an operation nearly 2 years ago now. But I used to be really active with the samba band, and I went back there yesterday, and it was really nice to be with those people. And there was like 4 or 5 guys there, and we just had a chat, and we've like got over the proverbials. I haven't seen you. How you feeling? Oh no, a bit shit. Do you know what I mean? Sat in the house doing nothing. It's nice to be out. We smashed the drums. I was so excited about. I remembered all the beats and stuff. So this year, I've got that family, and I haven't had that family around me for a while, and it's my musical family, you know. So, and I know that I can go there, and it's not just about beating the drum. We go to festivals together. They organize, we run our own nights and stuff. So I've missed that. So to be embraced again with open arms, that was very valuable to me. Do you know what I mean? So I was sat there thinking, well, they want me to come back. Is there a space for me? You know what I mean? You start thinking in your head, I've been away too long. Can I go back to it? And it was just like, I was sat in the car outside for about 10 minutes. Shall I go? Shall I go? Shall I go? And I went, fuck it. Got in there, had the best time, met faces that I haven't seen for ages. And again, within 10 minutes, I was the silly twat on the drum, making everybody laugh. Do you know what I mean? So that's what it's all about, I think.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Red, how about you? How about you? You're the youngest here in the panelists, but you have the longest experience of all of us. So what kind of values, or do you also experience that there was a change in your value system when you're younger, like a teen, and then you as an adult, and when you grow? But was there a change in your value system?
Well, I think, just to give you a little bit of a background, 31 years in the military, aviator, invitation to Vietnam, invitation to Bosnia. So I have a background of being a flyer. And in the military, the Navy has a different culture. And within the Navy, you have a different culture for the submarine force, for the aviation, and for the surface. And they're all different. And even within the airplanes that you fly, there's a different culture. And so as you start spending years in that culture, you know, certain things are of value, and certain things are, we just don't talk about that. We don't do that, whatever. I've been married 54 years and still have a wonderful, you know, loving relationship with my wife. I retired in 2007 and been an entrepreneur since. I have my business that I'm doing there. I'm the oldest of 9 kids, so I have a family relationship from that one. I've been to 61 countries in the world. So I have a kind of a different perspective than a lot of people, because I've seen and worked and been involved with other things. So I have kind of a little bit different than, you know, somebody who never went in the military, went to school. I got 5 academic degrees, so in all different subjects. I never stayed the same. My first love was chemistry. I got a degree in that and never got a chance to practice it because of Vietnam, but I use it every day now for my research. And so things happen for a reason. But for me, when I look at values and I think about that topic, you know, honesty was already mentioned, but I think self-respect is partly, you know, if you're not true to yourself, then, you know, that is one. But, you know, self-respect, self-esteem, self-confidence, you know, those things are all intertwined. You know, the loyalty, compassion, honesty, those all seem to go in there. But in the big scheme of things, I think if you have self-respect and you have integrity, I think you can live with yourself and be just quite happy, just regardless of what's going on around you.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with the self-respect, and being an ex-military child and being ex-military myself, it taught me that. And I think that's something that in civvy life, you'll understand what I mean by civvy life, they don't tend to have anything to direct them unless they go out and search in it. You know, I found the old footage of my passing out parade on YouTube, and there's me all freshly skinned, you know. I remember I couldn't grow a beard. It was like, you've got 3 days to grow a beard or a mustache or it's gone, you know, and just all them memories come flooding back. And I think being a civilian, being ex-military, you learn a different loyalty, and you know your neighbors, you know everybody in your street, on your squadron, you know. And exactly what you were saying about, I was on Tatty Tun, so I was at the bottom of the airfield working on a craggy, any aircraft that didn't work, we were working on it, you know. But at the top end was all the senior NCOs in their swanky planes, you know. But when you're in the mess, you're all the same, you know. So
so true.
Yeah,
absolutely. I love what you said, Red, because you started with, you know, with self-esteem, self-respect. I love that, because I also strongly believe when you don't respect yourself, how you can respect somebody else. When you don't love yourself, how can you love yourself? I guess it starts always with ourselves. So people always always about others. I want to save the world. I want to save this. I want to start with yourself. Yeah, and
save yourself first. Yeah,
absolutely. That's so absolutely important. And because I was asking Red this about the change of the value system, because I made my experience when I was younger. My value system was a little bit different. I guess there are 2 core values. They're always important for me. They're still, in my youngest age, for me, it's freedom and independency. I wouldn't call me a rebel, but for me, if somebody cuts down my freedom or my independency, I'm really pissed off. Yeah. Okay, I was in the military too. Of course, I can give up part of my freedom and part of my independence, because for common sense of a community, no doubt on that. But when somebody really cuts it down with no purpose, I'm really pissed off. So this is for me the core values. But I found out when I was thinking about, in preparation of the show, a little bit about reflecting about my life the last 58 years, there was a little bit change. When I was younger, there have been other values that have been more important, that are not so important like now. You know, in the beginning when I was young, for me, a value was very important to be very tough, working hard, you know, making career, stuff like that. This career values, money is also a value, was very important. Then I started my family, raising 3 kids. So protection from my family values become more and more important. Now kids are out of the house. I have more time for myself. I work for more formal communities. So my value system was a little bit changing, but
I think it evolves. I think it evolves as you get older. If you experience lots and lots of things, it's trial and error, and you know, you can be led down the wrong path, and you learn something valuable from that. You know, what I thought was meaningful in my 20s, oh my God, you know, going out, getting wasted, partying, you know, not going to work, you know, after a party, not going home, quick brush your teeth, straight into work, fall asleep on the desk, you know. That was important then, but then in your 30s, your career is important. Do you know what I mean? And in your 40s, it's your family, and then when they're all grown, and then the importance is yourself. You know, because you've got to reevaluate. You've been giving to everybody else, and the older you get, it's like, right, okay, my time is limited because you've got all your responsibilities. What am I going to do with that time? You know, so
absolutely,
make it useful and meaningful.
Absolutely. So I found out there was such change, but what surprised me, but the common value, the core values like freedom and independence, has always been there. Always been there. This never changed from my young age, since I can think it back till now. That values, like as I mentioned, freedom, independence, never ever changed.
But you know something, Roland, you mentioned earlier in life, and you know, when I look at my primary group that I talk to a lot on my health and wellness stuff, you grow, you have a family, you take care of them, they finally get out the door, and now all of a sudden you have a chance to take a break, take a deep breath, have a chance to, okay, really concentrate on your business. And then all of a sudden your parents start getting sick. So you have a very narrow window somewhere there in that 45 to 55 to almost 60, that if your parents are healthy, you have an extended period of time that you can enjoy life. But if your parents are sick, then all of a sudden you're taking care of them, or you're worried about them all the time. Now, all of a sudden your focus is, I don't want to be in their shape when I get that old. So now you have to say, I need to take better care of my health. Well, you've had 50 years to take care of it, but for whatever reason, you always focused on something else. Now it's become right in your face because you can see it. It's right there. And then all of a sudden, they pass on, and you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to go the same way they did, particularly if there's something horrendous with regard to their health. But the times change. And when we were growing up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, the music, the culture, the values of society in Germany was totally different in the 60s, and the value in the United States. You had the Berlin Wall, you had all sorts of stuff going on over there. And if you were in Poland coming out post World War II, there was still a lot of restrictions in that. The travel that I did around in the Slavic countries, it's amazing some of the things that is still there, and sometimes they're for a reminder. You see this building has got bullet holes in the wall. Well, there's a reason why that's there is a reminder. It's in Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. They have bullet holes still in some of the buildings there at the base, because they want people to know this really happened. And when you go over to Fort Island, there's bullet holes through the windows in the hangar, and you see the strafing on the ground. They did not cover that up. So the value for that is, hey, history tends to repeat itself, and we have a tendency to repeat ourselves too. And so if we're really in smart about it and we're intelligent, we want to improve, but sometimes we just don't quite have the awareness or the education to make that activity something I got to do. And I can tell you, from me getting a little bit older nowadays, I have a second floor office, and I got to hang on to that damn rail going down if I've been sitting here in this chair for a while, because all of a sudden my legs just aren't working the way they used to. But if I'm coming up and going back down, I don't have a problem. But I'm noticing changes that 2-3 years ago weren't there.
Yeah, nature does that. Yeah,
absolutely. Reggie, because you mentioned, there are different value systems, not only personal ones, individual ones, but also society ones, different countries, different cultures. I want to bring it on the next level. So it's clear that we have values, some change, some stayed. Guys, from your experience in the UK or in the US, do you see there's a change? Or I wouldn't say a change. There is a dramatic crushing of the value system. One of my heroes, Professor Jordan Peterson, this Canadian professor, said he's less concerned about wars worldwide, what's going on. The pandemic is more concerned that our value system is crushing. That we are changing that. I give you an example. Families are not so important anymore. We have more individuals, we have more egos. We don't come together in family gatherings, less and less. We don't have this, I don't know, not the dinner anymore, but not the Sunday dinners together. Everybody's individual. We even not, I don't know the US, but we're not allowed to say mom and dad. We have the breastfeeding part, the non-breastfeeding. We have all the shit. Sorry, with the shit that is going on.
Yeah, but that's the way the world is. Yeah, that's the way the world is at the moment. Yeah,
I think it's been a shift in the last 20, maybe 25 years, and it's an incremental relativism. What was really important back then, a married couple is a man and a woman. We're seeing that shift where that is no longer have the same value, relative incremental morals. I mean, with regard to abortion, just so many things that 25 years ago, no, we would not allow, but incrementally it's crept into society and became a norm, and now it's being defended. And so what our values were way back when, and that way back when is just not that many decades ago, is being challenged on a daily basis. And so if you're a very religious person, you're saying, yeah, I can't do, but then again, everybody around you, not everybody, but many people around you are still espousing the newness of this, or we got to change with the times, or whatever it may happen to be. And I think it can be very challenging for somebody who's not necessarily set in their ways, but has a relative ability. Okay, fine, I understand what you're doing. But then all of a sudden that understanding isn't allowed to be voiced in some arenas per se.
Yeah, Some people call me a rebel, a free spirit, and those who know me very well also call me very conservative, because for me core values are very, very important. But really, guys, do you think that our core values, like family, which is one of the most important, are in danger nowadays?
Well, they have our core values. It all goes down to families don't have enough time together. They're literally working their asses off, 2, 3, 4 jobs to keep a roof over their head. The dad's out all the time, or the breadwinner, shall we say, because it's not the dad anymore, as we live in a changing world. But whoever the breadwinner is, or both of the parents are breadwinners, or they're out constantly, so they don't even have time to come home. They don't even have time to sit down and have a meal. You know, especially in the UK now. I couldn't tell you the last time that families sat round a table. As you say, back in the day, that's what we used to do every day of the week. There was fresh meat and 2 veg every day, military style. You were fed, you ate what was in front of you. You didn't have choice. But oh my God, I'm glad things have changed, because certain things back then that I was forced to eat, even now I can eat them, but I still have a psychological memory about stuff like that. So yes, we are diversifying, but values there. If you've got values, then you will have core values, and it's you've got to split it up. There's values and inherent attitudes that people have, and in today's society, everything's technology based. So people are brave online. They don't speak face to face. So, but going back to families sitting around tables, it's not cost effective these days. People cannot afford to do it. You know, it's a sad state of affairs. It's actually, I know people that are in relationships, and it's actually better off for them to live apart than it is to live in the same household financially.
You know, you bring up an interesting part about having food around the table and the family eating, and that's the way I was raised. But as we get older, we notice that the changes that doesn't necessarily affect our values significantly, but we see those changes reflected in our kids and our grandkids, because they are growing up in a different cultural world. There's a radio DJ here in Houston many years ago who used to end every show with "Don't let anybody steal your joy," and I've never forgotten that. But one of the things that he mentioned, I think is very germane to today's topic, is the fact that he say, one mother can raise 10 kids, but 10 kids can't take care of one mother. And that's so true. In the old days, you'd have grandma, living with you until she passed on. Everybody be in and around or nearby, walking distance. That doesn't happen. The job now is, somebody's in Sydney, somebody else is over in Kenya. It doesn't matter. They're somewhere, but the technology keeps them close together. But again, it's not necessarily eyeball to eyeball.
Yeah. But I understand this, but what my concern is, I just brought it up, family as a core value, because a family is not only a value, the family is also the core of a society. It's the family, it's the tribe, it's a community, it's a country or a state or a society. So where is society going when family is not a core value anymore? Where's society going? Do we have more egos, or what you see, we have more nationalists? Countries are becoming more, especially in Europe, more nationalists. We have the European community, but it's not really community.
The world is angry, but it's angry at the wrong people. So what you're happening now, we're living in technology where some pea-brained prick can sit behind a camera and spout the most ridiculous diatribe in the world. There'll be people out there that are, want more and more of it. Back in our day, you had the local news, and then you switched on the telly and you might have the national news. Now we can hear news from anywhere in the world instantaneously. So I don't think the world is as bad as people make it out to be. It's just we see and hear a lot more bullshit these days because there's so many different channels, and unfortunately bullshit and separation sells. It's not about, the industry is not about unity. You name me one industry that's about uniting people.
Yeah. You're very right, Big Scott, on that one. I know in the late 80s, when we had access to the internet, I could go find stuff going on almost anywhere in the world. And, well, why isn't this being told here in the United States? And then when it finally did get there, well, they're only telling me a third of what's going on. They're cherry picking things.
Yeah.
And so at that point in time, I was involved with a whole bunch of stuff, and it was real easy, going to school, 4 or 5 nights a week and being gone 3 weekends a month. I was able to, at that point in time, say, hey, I don't need this. And I kind of just by default gave up watching news.
Mm-hmm.
And that was late 80s. And I didn't have a need for it. And that went through the 90s. And nowadays I'll look at headlines and I'll rarely look beyond the first paragraph in anything.
Yeah.
If you can't tell me what's going on very, very quickly, I don't need an opinion of what you think about it. I just need to know what happened. And then, but when they start telling me this is what I should think about it, that to me, they're putting their values onto me, and that's not what I need. I need to be able
that's people preaching. Yeah, there's people preaching onto you. You know what I mean? There's information. I don't care what color, race, color, creed, denomination, whatever you follow. That's entirely up to you, and I'll quite happily discuss it, but don't preach it to me. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's today. It's all about followers, getting people to follow me. So it's all about people aren't being genuine. A genuine person is when we sit next to each other, because what we say is only 10%. The rest of it's body language, and so many things get misconstrued or misinterpreted because it's not face to face. It's snippets.
But also you have the people who can't miss 10 o'clock news. I mean, before they go to bed, they have to have that hour's worth of whatever it was.
I can't believe there's still old people walking down my street, to get the papers in the morning. I was like, God, I thought that had all stopped now, But,
and so you have that culture that's where, and they believe everything they hear and see. It's just
exactly. Yeah.
But as you said, it's opinions. It's a lot of things, and people.
That's their comfort zone. That's their comfort zone.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely, they have a comfort zone, and so long as they're in it, they're happy. But don't you push them toward the edge of it, because they're.
And the thing we've got to realize in today's society, there are, as you said earlier on, Red, there are people that are ingrained in them ways, and you can't teach an old horse new tricks, and I'm not saying we have to accept what people say, but there's got to be a little bit of grace. Do you know what I mean? So yes, we're living in a world that is separating, and there's people against this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. You know what I mean? And that's respect. Whatever we decide to follow, nobody's perfect. If you want to be a flat earther, that's entirely up to you. You know what I mean? You could laugh at my philosophies. Who says what's what and what's right? And it's harder these days to filter through what is right and what's not. People will click through. I, like you, Red, I'll read something. If it engages me, I'll read it all the way through, then I'll post it. A couple of times, and it's hard. A couple of times I've seen something without looking, thought, oh yeah, that's attracted to me, clicked it, and then as soon as I've clicked it, somebody's put a negative comment on it, and I'm like, do you know what? Bang, delete it. I don't need that, but people, oh, you've put a bad comment, I'm going to reply to that bad comment, and there's this sense of false bravado, so we live in a miscommunication technology as opposed to a communication technology, because it's being used in the wrong ways.
I think we live in a negative miscommunication, because the negativity of news is 80% of what we see in here in most cases.
Well, bad news. I did journalism course. Bad news sells. Nobody wants to be listened to good news. Oh, Joe down the road won £2.5 million. Oh, Ethel won 300 quid at bingo. Within 10 minutes you're turning it off because you feel inferior.
Yeah. So. But the point is, people love bad news because they make it. Interesting thing is they feel them good, because
it could have been me. Oh, lucky. Yeah,
an airplane was down in the Hindu Kush. 100 people died. Oh, luckily I couldn't afford a ticket. That's the point. People feel good. So I'm safe. Didn't happen to me. Yeah, people love that. Absolutely.
It's a hard world, but as you say, you've got to stick to your core values and don't preach on anybody. As long as you're happy and you're not hurting anybody else, then what's fucking wrong with whatever you do?
Now, if somebody says, why do you believe that? Now you can preach, because they've given you permission for you to tell them, why do you believe this?
Yeah, exactly.
And if somebody's out there,
honestly say, oh, I'm quite interested to listen about what you're saying, but it's the way that people deliver. It's like, well, I'm doing this and you should do. But I like to because I do radio and I do journalism. I like to listen, try and get a little bit of a grasp and then play devil's advocate, So, but some people don't like that. If you start questioning their beliefs, you think you're questioning them. You know what I mean? And it's a hard thing, but that all comes down to knowing who you are, as you said, Red. Do you know what I mean? Be true to yourself, and then the rest of the world will just fall into place, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is something to do with respect, respecting somebody else's opinion. And respecting it. But I also want to understand it. So I whatever communication I have with somebody, conversation with different angles, with somebody's on the left, on the right, black, blue, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I remember I had a long conversation with somebody, and I made it public, and then people gave a shitstorm on me on Facebook. Say, how can you talk to and invite a right-wing person? What's the problem?
No, but that's what it's about.
Person. I'm not interested in his politics. I'm interested in this person. I had an amazing conversation with this person. It was interesting. It was controversial, of course, but it was respect. How dare you? How can you do this? Why not?
I equate it to, you put a table in front, say, between me and Scott, and in the middle of the table, there's a big number. I see it as a 6. He sees it as a 9.
Yeah.
And we're both, it's exactly what our value systems say. That's what we see. That's our interpretation based on our psyche and our education.
Well, it becomes indoctrined. And I think that's where the problem becomes, when you become indoctrinated, because then you can't separate yourself from the belief or whatever,
But what Roland's saying is, he sees my 6 and I see it as a 6. Yeah. But that doesn't have anything to do with, hey, let's talk about this or that. A 6 is a 9. Yeah, they're different numbers, but I'm not getting emotionally involved because he believes it's a 6. And I think that's part of the issue, is the fact that sometimes we do equate people's beliefs that are genuinely separate from the rest of, but we see them as that belief and nothing else.
Yeah. And I think it's also, I remember one of the shows before, I don't know, maybe Scott, you remember that Christian and we had a very controversial discussion on 2 topics on the previous shows. And afterwards he came back to me and said, Roland, I'm sorry, but I said, I loved it. When we're all the same opinion, we don't learn from each other. It has to come on a respectful level, of course. On a respectful level.
A good debate sometimes gets really, really heated. Some people's like, calm down. It's like, I'm not getting angry. I'm just getting animated, and people can't. But people can't take that. Do you know what I mean? They take it as a, oh my God.
It's good to have a controversial a debate with passion.
Life would be boring. Life would be boring if we all ate the same grey shit every day,
Absolutely. What can we do to help other people's? My question is always, when I do coaching with clients, I said, okay, what is important? Which values are important for them? And I said, okay, this, and this. And my question is always, how do you give space to your community, to your family, that these values can really being brought alive for everyone that surrounds you?
When you're up against the 40-minute time limit, I'd say that's probably a really good topic to get into, maybe next week.
Yeah. I guess that's a good suggestion, Red. Maybe we continue this discussion and go how we can make this values for everyone around us, because it's nice when we have values, but what does it mean to our family members?
How do you add value to your community? You know what I mean?
Okay, good. Yeah.
All right, guys. Good to see you. Welcome aboard, Red.
Thanks, Red.
I enjoyed it. Thank you all very much, and we'll catch you next week.
Catch you next week. And for our audience, please, when you missed one of the shows, all the recordings, this show is recorded, will be automatically seen on our website, bonfiretalks.com. And there you get more information about the show and the background. Thanks a lot. See you next time. Same time, same procedure. Next Wednesday, same time. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
We're going this way. Nope. We're going this way.